Interesting. I said it was a loaded question because it depends. It depends very much on where you are in development. What's the most important source of financing? Is it starting up the company? Is it taking that research, spinning it out of academia? Remember, I should point out, about 70% of these startup companies have spun out of university research. Now they'll have evolved over time and their products will have changed, but a big part of it sort of starts, where's that first money? Well, that doesn't come from venture in the beginning. It's the 3 F's, they call it: family, friends, and fools. Who's putting that first round in there? But then it does move on to venture, it does move on to private equity, and ultimately when it gets more, it's great for the start, but the big money, maybe venture, but the big money starts to come from licensing deals. It starts to come from mergers and acquisitions. It used to come from IPOs, but in the last 24 months there's only been 1 IPO in all of North America, and that was worth $6 million. I mean, there aren't the big dollars in terms of the public markets anymore. So it does seeing that a lot of the money in terms of what's important for development depends on the stage of development that's on there and where does it come to pay for that. So let's talk about the biotech market performance. Does anyone have any investments in the RSPs out there perhaps, or a couple areas? Everyone doing okay out there? Everyone wild? Okay, so I'm going to do this is a little comparison chart there. I've taken off the NASDAQ Biotech Index and compared it with Standard & Poor's Index over the last year. And you'll see a chart on the next slide in terms of that represents. And I want you to tell me which one do you think is biotech, is the NBI. Is it the red line or is it the blue line? Take the next slide. There it is. Vote, 1 or 2. Blue. Can I see the next chart then? Let's flip it back. And you're right, it is blue. The biotech index, the biotech industry has done better than the average market. You're going, wow, why is that? Or how does that play out when you hear such doom and gloom stories sometimes, or I'm about to give you, in terms of the biotech world? And I think it's skewed. When you take a look at terms of what's happening in the biotech industry, most of the U.S. biotech stocks are down. 86% of the stocks are down, and the Canadian listings, the few that we have that are on the TSX, the same story. It's perhaps a little bit deeper on that one. But it is the profitability of the large biotechs that is sort of carrying the average, or skewing the overall results in that one. So it's telling. So let me just, as I'm getting down to my last 2 minutes here, so what's the outlook? What percentage of Canadian biotech companies do you think have sufficient cash to fund their operations through to the end of this year? You haven't been listening to our press releases on this one. The answer is 3. It's 50%. Half our companies are going to be out of money by the end of this year on this one. It is a telling statistic that comes out. It's not unique to Canada. It's also in the U.S. as well. There's a cash crunch. Typically, biotech companies are on cycles looking for next money until they ultimately get to the ultimate source of financing, which is sales. But they got to get to that stage. But the emerging companies, half of them in our survey of the companies in December had 12 months of cash on hand. Now what we're seeing is companies are scaling back operations. They're cutting programs. They're cutting staff definitely. They're suspending or they're going under. I see companies going from 102 employees to 2. They're shelving what's going on there. Will they go under? Some will, some won't. But it is an incredibly difficult time, the short there. So it does raise questions, and I'm not going to have an answer for that one in terms of what does the world look like at the end of this year if we lose all the emerging technology companies, not just lose them globally, but maybe lose them in our market. So as I close up, or come to an end here in terms of wither biotech that's out there, the public supports it and expects success. The biotech overall, the markets, the investors actually expect biotech to outperform the market, and they continue to see it that way. But the short-term outlook for emerging companies is certainly not optimistic. M&A and strategic partners, which we saw from Paul's thing there, is actually probably going to be a very attractive option, certainly for the small companies, but it's also, considering the valuations for a lot of these companies is so low, it's an interesting purchasing opportunity. The challenge is going to be is we're going to keep that talent in Canada. But as I said before, the best source of financing is going to be sales. And the challenge for all of us is to make sure that we have a market in Canada where the companies can get to the sales point and be able to succeed. Thank you very much.